Hello, welcome to the Permission Mission Show. We were having a little bit of technical difficulties. I'm glad that we are up and running. Thank you for joining us here today. I have a very special guest here in the studio, and we are talking about a topic that most people deal with on a day-to-day basis, even me, just right when we were starting the show, because I'm stressed out that it wasn't working in the beginning. So, stress is one of those things that's similar to what the Permission Mission show is all about, and that's normalizing the conversation of mortality. Mortality is the inevitable. Stress is going to be the inevitable. And today, welcome Natalan Jackson to the show.
Hello.
Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. I'm excited myself. I'm a little stressed out right now.
A little stressed out.
No, I'm just having fun.
Of course. Well, we're going to dive right in. I'll tell you, I was really excited to invite you to the show, Natalan. And the whole purpose is because it's been a few years that you've been dealing with some stress around HOA. And when I last spoke with you a couple weeks ago, I felt your heart. I felt like, gosh, dang it, I get it. Like HOA is one of those things that a lot of people have opinions about. They, it's similar to death, right? People don't tell you not to talk about it, don't deal with it, but yet you're dealing with it and you need to talk about it. So walk us through this journey of when the HOA stress began.
Well, my situation regarding to the stress of HOA is not having an HOA.
Okay, see, people would have thought that you were going to talk about already having it and then dealing with the stress. Okay, so not having it.
Not having an HOA.
Okay.
So I'm that one that is stressed out because I don't have an HOA. And so that means for my community is that everybody assumed that they don't have an HOA, so you can just do whatever you want to do, right? So my stress is saying, no, you cannot do whatever you want to do because you don't have an HOA. There is code enforcement part of the community.
Sure.
And so that has been truly one of my stresses. And really stressed because I am one that like to keep my community clean and neat. And so like my surroundings neat. And so the value of having an HOA, I think, is really necessary for me. It's just unfortunately I have a home that is not under a HOA. So it's been very stressful.
Very stressful. And I'm here to tell you, Natalan, it's not going to go away.
I know.
Unless you get an HOA.
Absolutely.
Right? So talk to me about how you're dealing with it and how it's just, something that you will deal with until you move. So that, again, people out there who may have an HOA have some stress to people who don't have an HOA. And it's stressful because you saying that it holds some kind of, accountability, I think, having, I will be honest, when she brought up the word HOA years ago, I had an HOA and I did not like it at all. The whole reason, though, looking back, was just simply because I didn't communicate effectively to people. They weren't communicating effectively to me. So I already had built an opinion that all of them were the same and they were all bad. But so you caught my attention when you're like, well, Mary, I don't even have an HOA and I wish I had an HOA.
Right.
So talk to us more about how so not having it, what do you want the people to know in your area to help them understand where you're coming from?
Well, I can just say what I have done is I have gotten involved with my community. through getting involved more with the city in which I live in. So connecting with the council, my council person that's part of my particular ward, connecting with the code enforcement people, connecting with everyone that I can connect with to assist me, to help me uh, keep our community intact. I feel like I'm this one man, this one woman person doing this, but that's what has helped me deal with my stresses. Is getting involved with my community, showing the city of my community how important it is to keep my area where I live uh, up to par. And so they have collaborated with me from down to the code enforcement, the city council person. They understand how important it is to me, and they see that I personally am getting engaging and doing something. I'm putting
Sure.
they say my money where my mouth is. So I'm doing something. I'm not just screaming about it, but I'm actually doing some things about it to make a difference in my community. So a lot of things that have been implemented in my community is because of me getting involved and putting some laws in place, some signs in place, just getting involved in it. Even though in a lot of my community, my neighbors and stuff, of course, I'm not their favorite person. So, but there has been a lot of changes and there's some differences in there. That's how my stresses have. That's how I do it. I just do something about it.
Yeah, and I
That's what
think,
I do about stress. I do something about it.
and that's the best way to deal with it head on. The people in your neighborhood, I'm certain that one day they will see what it is that you're doing is not to hurt anybody,
Right.
but it's actually to help the
Absolutely.
environment,
Yeah.
help, have some ways
Some
of
standards.
some standards,
Yeah.
absolutely standards. One of the questions I was asked when we were talking about HOA was, do cemeteries have HOA? Because,
Right.
Natalan and I both work for the largest funeral and cemetery corporation here in the world.
Mm-hmm.
We firsthand deal with families on a day-to-day basis, helping them prepare, helping them get over the hard conversations of mortality, preparing both their funeral and their cemetery. And HOA is there an HOA in the cemeteries, Natalan?
Absolutely. We have perpetual care, and we do have rules to govern our area to keep it beautiful and keep the value up for our families to be able to come and celebrate the life of their loved one that has been the loss and that is resting in our places, making it safe for them to be able to sit there and it's like a park. And that's how we want our environment for our families, so that they can feel safe to spend time. And if they want to sit and have birthdays, I see it a lot of time. And it's just, we want them to feel safe and comfortable. So we have to keep it up, you know.
Which is what the HOA will do in
absolutely.
our communities where we live, and be able to kind of get outside and not feel any threat,
Right,
or
absolutely.
Just have that camaraderie of people, that if you're going to wake up every day to the same people at the same house for however long, I mean, we certainly, I would want that for everybody as well as for myself. So the key is, though, is how do you get there? How do you get there when the stresses are real? I know, I'll kind of stay with the home HOA now, but I did want to pull in to connect the two with the permission mission and how we're normalizing the conversation of mortality.
Right.
And the fact that, yes, all of our parks are we have standards, we have rules for a reason, so that loved ones who have passed can be safe, giving that peace to their families, knowing that every single day for years, people have been in our parks for years, and we maintain them so that they look nice, and that they are a place that because it can get out of hand. I
Yeah.
mean, I know, just having my own niece's little area there, I want to put all this up. I want to decorate it and put a fence and and it's just not necessary when, again, because then everybody will want to do it. And that's the whole point of, that if one person does it, then everybody else wants to do it.
Right.
In our home real estate homes, if you do it, then other people are going to want to do it. Or somebody else does something that you would never think of doing, maybe having a whole bunch of cars in the neighborhood or in your
A
driveway
bunch
or
of
stacked on top of each other.
beer, your loved one's favorite beer stacked all by the grave, right? Can you
Yeah,
envision that? I have seen
I
that.
have seen it too.
Right.
And
And
yep.
so it can be very stressful to what seems to be normal to you is not normal to the other person. So when it's already stressful, when you are going to see your loved one at the park, you're there. That's a stressful moment, even though you are aware that they're no longer presently with you. But it's already stressful for them to go there, and then to
Yeah.
go there and they just see everything in chaos.
Yeah.
That becomes very stressful for that particular person. Now, it may not be stressful for one person that's used to chaos. So we have to be fair and make sure that everything is um, standard so that everyone is comfortable.
Sure. Yeah. And there's been, there's flexibility. There's, I think what my mom's always taught me, we all live in this world.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to like each other. We don't
Right.
have to agree with each other, but we certainly have to figure out how to live together.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Absolutely.
the streets are mine as much as they're yours.
Right. Right.
Your property is yours and their property is theirs, but
Right.
at the same time, you want things to continue in value.
Yes.
Right.
Right. And right. It's like meet me halfway.
Meet me halfway.
Right. And you're famous for this, Mary. I've learned a lot of being a part of some of the organizations. Is Sci
Seminars, PSI seminars. Yes, we're both a graduate.
So let's make it a win-win for everyone.
Yeah.
And there's a way to do that.
Yeah.
So there's some things I can say negotiable. Let's negotiate this and make sure, you know. And I think I'm seeing that in my community. People are, of course, I've had to do certain things to help them understand that they can't do certain things, of course. But it's out of love. It's out of a spirit of love. But
Yeah.
And then when people realize that, when they come to that understanding, they're like, oh, okay. They may not like it or they'll look at me differently, but that's okay. It's like a child, you tell them they can't do certain things when they're growing up. Then when they get older and see all their other friends that was allowed to do it,
Yeah.
and look where they are today, and now they're like, oh, I am so glad my parents did not let me do this. I could probably be like that person.
Yeah.
So that's how it is with the when you set standards or then when they come to an awareness that this you can't do, when they realize and see how nice it is, when they go to another park or another funeral cemetery and they see how terrible it is, like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad I have a space here at our location. They're glad.
So staying with the whole stress part.
Mm-hmm.
It is, according to the Center for Disease Control, National Institute on Occupational Safety and Health, the workplace is the number one cause of life stress. I would say the home is as well, because when you have a rough neighbor who doesn't see eye to eye and you're living in that environment every single day, that can become very stressful too.
It was very stressful.
So based on their reports, about 120,000 people die each year as a direct result of stress. What do you think about that?
Yeah, because a lot of people don't understand how to channel that stress. I mean, there's good stress, and you're just going to have stress. It's going to come in your life.
That's the whole purpose
It's
of today's show is
it's going to
if
come.
you're stressed out, you're going to stress yourself out to death and you
Mm-hmm.
don't even know it. So
Right.
please absolutely hear what you're saying, Natalan, and that is we're going to have stress.
We're going to have stress. It's a good stress, and then there's bad stress is when you allow it to when you embrace it and never let it go, or you don't find you don't find a channel how to release it or how to uh, replace it, you know, with something that can give you a sense of peace, you know. So,
Yeah.
What is the lady's name? Trying to think.
I'm over 50 now if I didn't write it down.
Part of
I
our
didn't.
side, and she wrote something.
Oh, Ernestine
Right.
Fisher.
Yes,
Yes.
Ernestine.
Ernestine
Right.
Fisher.
Ernestine
Fabulous
Fisher.
woman
Yes.
who has since passed
Mm-hmm,
on.
mm-hmm. I always remember something that she said about to embrace. You know, so when you're having different situations in your life, events. When you have different events, I call my stress an event. And so when I have an event in my life, uh, I'm learning to embrace it. And that's what she said to me. It's been many years now, about 5 years now. And I'm learning I just embrace it. I accept it, whatever this event is. And then once I process it, then I'm like, okay, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
How do I resolve this event? How I make this event work for me, right?
Yeah.
Not against me, but how do I make it work for me? And
for other people.
and for
Because
right,
you were about other people
right,
when I talked to you a couple
yes.
weeks ago.
But when
in
I say
Elton.
how I make it work for me, I need to know how it works for me, because it's all people that's in my world, in my space, is always going to benefit when I know how to handle my stresses. When I know how to make it work for me. So, I learned to embrace it. That was just so profound for me. Embrace it.
Embrace it.
Embrace it. It's just like a loss. When you say permission, I think about you're saying, give yourself permission, embrace it. Yes, you lost your loved one. Yes, you lost someone very dear. Give yourself permission, embrace it, and have a conversation about it. Yeah. Be okay with talking about it. Be okay with being sad. Be okay with feeling that loss. Embrace it. Be okay with being sad.
I think we live in a world, Natalan,
that alleviates stress when you be okay with it.
It can, but I think we live in a world that is projected on us not to ever be stressed or not to accept being hurt or angry. Obviously, angry is one of those bigger topics. You know, we could have a whole show on that because anger can be many different things. It's how we deliver it, right? Anger delivered in a very hurtful way is not effective, but anger delivered in a communicative way is proactive. And that's the whole part of, permission mission is being able to talk about the hard stuff openly and accept that, we're all going to go one day, and gosh dang it, I don't want us going out any harder than it already has to be. So we're going to take a short commercial. I do want to remind you that we are broadcasting live here in Las Vegas, Nevada at the WWDBTV. If you have any questions, if you want to share some of your own stresses, please put them in the chat, or you're welcome to call the studio at 702-992-3207. My name is Mary McElhat, and I'm your host today. We're here with my guest, Natalan Jackson. We'll be back in a moment after this commercial. Stay with us.
Hello, my name is Mona Van Joseph, and I'm known locally as Mystic Mona. and I want to welcome you to a new program here on WWDB TV called 3. 3 is an amazing concept where a caller will call in, they will ask a specific question, and Chris Gray, our astrologer, Rainy Day, our clairvoyant medium, and myself, I'm an intuitive tarot consultant, will actually answer your one specific question. So all I want you to remember is 3.Vegas, one question, 3 readers, 3 answers, exclusively here on WWDB TV.
Hi, my name is Edgar Alejandro. I'm the co-founder of Rising Again Productions. So we've been here in Vegas producing films for the past couple of years, and we've seen our fair share of studios. We've worked in our fair share of studios, and to be honest, WWDB TV has been our favorite by far. John is so welcoming. The space is wonderful. It's perfect for what we need. We've had rehearsals here, we've had callbacks here, we've had table reads here. So if you're a Vegas creative, or really just a creative coming into Vegas, definitely check out this space. Chat with John. I think you'll find that this studio has everything that you'll need as well.
Welcome back to the Permission Mission Show. My name's Mary McElhat, and I'm your host today with Natalan Jackson. And today we are tackling the word stress. All of us are going to deal with it. If we haven't even noticed that today, you probably woke up with some stresses in some fashion or form. So, Natalan, earlier in the show, you were just sharing about like how to embrace stress.
Absolutely.
And not run from it, not hide from it, accept it.
That's right.
Embrace it and let it just be one of those natural things, a part of life. And of course, I'm always going to throw in there the mortality part of it is a natural part of life as well. And I think the two of them, if we can kind of come up with some, like practice mortality, I think we're going to definitely relate to stress events, as you call them earlier, events better, so we can live long, live meaningful lives and not be so stuck in no solutions, I guess is what I get frustrated with. And I'm guilty. I stress still over things that are mostly just really simple things, but I do, because working in the funeral industry, I think we have a little bit of an edge of not sweating the small stuff, knowing that somebody is passed away and knowing that somebody is not going to be with their loved ones. And so it just kind of puts things in perspective. Talk a little bit more about, like what advice would you give to somebody out there who's dealing with some HOA stress?
Some HOA stress.
HOA, because we were talking about HOA.
Oh, okay.
Yep, the HOA stress. What advice would you give them?
Well, either way. So, of course, I've lived in a home that had an HOA. So whatever stresses it is, whatever it could be, if it's a person with an HOA, just take accountability. If you are the one that is in that has a violation, don't stress over it. Just try to comply. That alleviates. Sometimes we just make too much out of stuff. We really do. We
make a mountain out of a molehill. Is that the saying?
Begin to understand the value of having an HOA. I think it's just like how we deal with our profession, to show people the value of something. So we look at the value of having an HOA instead of looking at, oh, they're telling me what to do. They're telling me how I need to do this or that. Look at the value of why. So when I had an HOA, I looked at the value of it, because simple fact that they keep everything, the common area, well kept. I felt it felt good to drive into my community and everything is well maintained. It felt good to see the homes well maintained. For me, I looked at that value of that. Yes, I've gotten notifications and letters stating I couldn't do certain things. I had to call it when I wanted to paint. I had a list of colors that I could only do. And so, but I had to look at the value of it. And I was like, okay, at least I felt good when I came home. It was just I felt safe in my community. I
Yeah.
felt good walking in the community. So just don't look at the negative part of it. Look at the positive part of it. I think that's how we have to look at life when it comes to stress, whether it's a job, whether it's a death. You got to look at the positive part of it. Um, I want to say this off of the HOA because something just came to me, Mary.
Yeah.
When I lost my mother, and my mother had passed, when she passed away, and I was just in my room, and that's a very stressful moment because she was my best friend.
Yeah.
Okay, she was my best friend, and so many people would come to me and say, "I am so sorry for your loss." And I thought about that. And so what I did, I'm one of those word people, and I'll look up a word to try to figure out, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And so I had to look up the word loss. And so when I looked up the word loss, it has saying losing something of value. That right there was a turning point to my understanding of my mother passing. And then I had to ask myself, what was it that I lost that was of value to me? And I began to think back of I lost community, being able to call my mother.
Yeah.
And so when I began to understand what that loss was, it was what I valued the most about my mother. It alleviated the stress of the loss.
Wow.
And that's the truth. It alleviated the stress of the loss. And I started thinking about the value of my mother. That's the truth, girl. Don't get me started. That's what I'm saying. You just start looking at the value of things instead of the
Instead of the maybe the part that we think we're missing out on
yeah.
versus the opportunity of what is now present, like the value of having your mother, her being your best friend.
That was the turning point. I looked up the word loss because that's what people say to me, and they probably don't even understand what they meant, because it's just a common thing. I'm sorry for your loss.
Right.
But me, it was like, I need to understand what that means. So I looked the word up because that's what I do. I looked the word up, and it was definitely something that was a turning point to help me deal with my loss of my mother. I started valuing what it was that me and my mother had, so.
And you guys had something
And
so special.
And the stress of that stress of my loss, it went away. Literally went away. Mm-hmm.
We kind of make things up, we kind of learn things from how other people learn them. And I think what you're really saying here, Natalan, is that, find out for yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe look up a word and start practice, just practice looking at it from a different perspective.
Right.
If it's not working, it's not working.
Right.
Instead of fighting what's not working.
Right.
Embracing a way that it can.
Understand the value of whether HOA. I have an HOA. Understand the value of not having an HOA. Or understand. And don't allow the stress of something that you don't like or you don't. Whatever that is to stress you out. Begin to understand the value of whatever it is, and then deal with it. you know,
Yeah.
make it work for you. Let it let it do something to build you and not to tear you down. Let it figure that out. That's how you alleviate stress. You know, even in my job, you know, I learned to. I can have some real stresses in my type of work.
We all can have
Right.
a few.
But I've learned to, because of who my relationship to the Most High is, the Lord, I've learned to say, you know what, I'm not going to stress over this. And so I channel it in another way and just release it. I stress, but then I release it.
Yeah.
I embrace it. I, you know, acknowledge it. And then I know, okay, now what do I need to do with it? Yeah.
I think what I most appreciate about you, Natalan, is the fact that you also call people.
Mm-hmm.
You'll call me.
Yeah.
We have had some
Yes, that's
really
another way to do it.
great conversations. And, you know, I know sometimes you'll be like, I don't mean to dump on you. And I'm like, no, you're not. If anything, like,
Right.
gosh, we have that safe space to be able to
Yes.
share whatever is going on
Absolutely.
in our lives. And you've been there for me in my most stressful days.
Right.
And I hope to be there in yours
Yeah.
as I was when you were, you know, telling me about what happened. And I'm like, girl, I have an HOA and I'm starting to really appreciate it now because you don't. And you truly do care about your community, and you've been out there making a difference for as long as I've known you. And I love how you take really hard situations and you do make them better. You're not one to keep making it harder.
Right.
And what a great example, because I know I need to watch people like that more. And I appreciate you. This is kind of a interesting little quote here I thought was totally appropriate, but it says, worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it will get you nowhere. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like worrying is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it will get you nowhere.
Right.
And that was by Emmy Bombeck. And she had made that quote. My sister and I were talking about it this morning. She was a little stressed today. Happy birthday, Debbie. She turned 66 today.
Ooh.
And I think 66 is beautiful on you. And I think 66 is beautiful on anybody.
I'm 66.
And Natalan is 66. So, shoot, you know, we don't need to stress about something that is already going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Like these birthdays.
Right.
These HOAs, these losses, graduations lately. I've been in the most stress of getting from one part of town to the other. I can imagine all the parents out there that are stressing so bad about their children moving on from college, like empty nesters, to, and I think, you know, it's like the inevitable. It's gonna be there. And the thing I'm walking out of here today, learning more by listening to you, is number one, embrace it. Number two, reach out and call somebody.
Absolutely. Have a confidant, someone that you can. Of course, you want a safe place where the individual is going to build you up, not, you know, tear you down or make you want to go crawl in a hole somewhere.
Tell you how wrong you were for doing that.
You know, you don't need that. You know, you got to make sure you know, can I give you an example? There was a friend that, when I've had some stresses in life, and I would call her. And by the time I hung up the phone with her, I mean, either if I had a blade, I'd cut my wrist, right?
Oh, no. It was that
so,
bad.
Don't you call that kind of friend, okay?
No.
You make sure you had the right friend. So, and then I had this one friend, I could call him, and he even spoke me up. I go out and want to conquer the whole world. That's the friend you want to call on. Do not call on no friend that when you're already feeling bad, you're going to feel worse. That's the one you just go out and have dinner with. But if you're having some stresses, you better call that one that's going to build you up. Isn't that right?
So it's qualifying
Yes,
friends. It's qualifying
let's
the
make
friends,
that
just
clear.
like you qualify, like you got to go to the doctor, you go see a doctor.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's your qualified friend who
It's very
deals with
seriously.
stress to build you up.
Absolutely. Right,
I
that's
truly
right.
believe that because yes, I mean, you want to know that stress is
Mhm.
already pressure.
Don't feel ashamed of
Don't
it.
feel ashamed.
Yeah.
No, none of those things.
Mm-mm.
You know, HOA are only as good as the people who run them.
That's true.
And we are the people who run them.
Yeah.
It's the people. It's not necessarily only the people on the board or whatever.
Right.
It's many times what I found, even in my own situation, is I don't even get involved with the board, but I'm complaining about something that I have no control over unless I got involved.
Absolutely.
So it's let us, another tip is just take control into your own hands.
Right.
Like you didn't stick right there in your neighborhood. You went out
Absolutely.
to say, here's how I can get everybody involved.
Let me meet the council person. Let me meet the director of code enforcement. Let me meet and get involved with them so that they can understand that this community that cares, and we want to collaborate together. And that's just in life, period. So yeah, pertaining to HOA, but
we the people that are
we
running.
are the people. Don't complain about certain things if you're not going to get involved.
Couple tips how to avoid stress. Here's a couple tips that I pulled off the internet. Take care of yourself. Avoid drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
As they can cause more stress. We're getting ready to go into a big weekend. I'm wishing everybody to be healthy and happy and not overdo it. Because we want people safe, right? We want people safe. We're trying to keep people alive. I know Permission Mission is talking about mortality, so we have better options to make ahead of time so that we don't do silly, crazy things.
Don't have us come pick you up.
End our life.
Our profession, we come pick you up. So
we don't want to come pick you up.
We don't want to do that.
We want you to be home with your families, okay? Engage in self-relaxation. I was kind of I haven't done that in a while, like self-relaxation. Maybe meditate, maybe go to Mount Charleston.
Go hiking. That's what I do when I stress. I go hiking, camping. Yeah. Find whatever you love to do and do it. Yeah.
Take breaks when needed. I think what I love most about the company we work with is we take breaks when we need them. I've even had bosses reach out to me and say, you know what, you've done enough today. I used to do that with you. I used to say, you've done enough today, go home.
Yeah, I have a problem taking a break.
Take breaks when needed. You are the most important person. Yeah. If you're not taking care of yourself, then nobody else is benefiting from it. Seek out social support. Yeah, seeking out, asking for help.
Right. Now you like this, the seeking out, so you can become a part of a groups. There's so many meetup groups and things that, that have different likes that you like, and you can become a part of it, whatever fits your personality. They have meetup groups. Like me, I'm a hiker, and that's one of the ways that I deal with my stresses of life. And so I'm part of a group, and it really has helped me. It helped. That's just part of it, part of relieving stress in your life. It's just.
You've gone to some really neat places over the last several years too, because of it. So get involved. Hiking groups, yoga groups, even people who go out and have food.
Improvement groups like
self-improvement groups. Yep.
Yeah, I don't want to name
PSI
them
seminars.
Yeah,
PSI seminars.
Yeah.
51-year-old company on just again dealing with stress because it's not going away.
Yeah.
Connect with others socially. Connection.
Yeah.
Connection is so important. I know, I have 6 children. They're all individually different. Some are very outgoing and some are very introverted.
Right.
And I get it. I'm more of the extrovert. I'm out, but I have some introvert stuff to me as well. And I want to just kind of like when things are tough and stressful, I tend to shut down and just be by myself.
Right.
Well, that's not effective. I will tell you, there's 8 billion, over 8 billion people in the world. Pick up the phone, call somebody.
Right. And
make that connection.
Yeah, and definitely. But there are times when you need to do an introspection and set, and spend some time with yourself and rest and meditate, pray, whatever
Journal.
it is. Journal. That was one of the things that I did when my mother passed away. I did a 40-day journal, and that helped me. Actually, and also, we have that 24-hour helpline, right?
Yeah.
And I called them because, of course, they didn't know me. So that made it even easier.
Tell them a little more about that, the 24-hour compassion helpline.
Yeah, we have one of our dignity differences is called the 24-hour compassion helpline. So when my mother passed away, of course, I felt like I didn't want to burden anyone personally that I had already, had been talking to my friends and my family about the loss of my mom. So I utilized one of the tools we have in our dignity difference, which is the 24-hour compassion. I felt more comfortable because they did not know me. So I just felt freely to talk to someone there, and I did, and it helped me. It helped me for that moment, for that second, what I was feeling at that time. So that is, how it helped me through some of the stresses of my life is my 24-hour. And another one I did the we had the 8-week class on grieving. I did a grieving.
Yeah.
I went through, of course, this is not the subject, but a divorce. And so that's part of grieving. And I grieved through that. And I did an 8-week grieving course. That really helped me understand when you get an understanding, it helps relieve some of the stresses of life. And so that grieved me to understand how to grieve, help relieve some of the stresses of the divorce to help me.
Sure.
And I wasn't too proud to be a part of this 8-week course that our company actually provided. So it was really, I highly recommend that. Yeah.
Maintain a normal routine. I guess maintaining a normal routine. Patch helps me with that every morning. I him on his
That's
walk.
My baby.
That's all of our babies. My big old 90
He's handsome too.
90-pound boxer. And then give back to others. And
yes,
that's a big one.
Oh yeah.
They say when you have problems so big, just go help somebody with theirs.
Absolutely.
And all of a sudden your problems don't matter as much.
Yeah.
So giving to others, and
that's exactly.
This is what you're giving today. You're giving your time, and
it's my pleasure.
Giving some tips on stress, and we really truly are all in this together. And Natalan, we've had deep discussions about things that we can't really change. We can change ourselves, but we're not going to be able to change a big world. But we're truly committed to making sure that we live this quality life that we have one shot at living.
Yeah.
And dealing with stress or talking about our end of life and loss of somebody.
Right.
I bet it would be easier to talk with somebody who you don't know. Mission. Have a great show. We'll see you next week. I do have a guest on our show next week. We are going to be talking about estate planning.
Ooh.
And how important the estate planning is for everyone involved.
It's so important. Now, if you want to relieve some stress, put that in place.
Big release of stress for sure.
Be there.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.